A year ago, Kathy was in Papua New Guinea and she met so many amazing people who still impact her life. One of those people was Henneh, a woman with an inspiring story. Her journey began with a challenging situation that could have easily left her feeling hopeless, but she chose to think differently. Hannah's story is a testament to the power of resilience and determination. Enjoy this conversation between Henneh and Kathy.
Hello, my friends. Thank you for joining me again today. This podcast episode is going to be another interview that I facilitated with my friend Henneh Joku. Wow. I mean, I can't wait to hear from you all. After you listen to our conversation, please share with me what were your takeaways. She gives so many little golden nuggets. And she spoke to me in so many different angles. I can't wait to hear from you. So please do share. Henneh, I met a year ago when I went over to Papua New Guinea. She's from Papua New Guinea. She lives in Papua New Guinea. She's got a powerful story. I'm not going to share anything here. You're going to listen to the interview. But I want you to see her as just a fellow friend. You know, sometimes when we cross borders, when we travel, I mean, people are different, right? We look different, we have different thoughts, we have different emotions, but really we don't. And she talks about that, the power of relationships and the power of people. We are people. You, me, Henneh, we are people, and we have a lot more similarities than we have differences. So enjoy this conversation that I had with Henneh. Definitely follow her. Watch the show notes for different links where you can stay connected and lean into all of the golden nuggets that she's sharing. I can't wait to hear how it connects with you. How are you with all of your life changes? I want to hear all about the new position that you're in.
So I decided I want to go back into media. You know, it's a passion that I've had. I joined the media industry in Papua New Guinea when I was 15, and I've never formally studied for it. It was a passion, and it grew from there. So my experience is in journalism and broadcast for radio and TV. I You can't get away from it, you know. Your purpose will kind of give you a nudge and remind you, like, hey, you know. So I've appreciated all my other life experiences and work experiences, but I've missed wanting to do what I love, I guess. So I stepped out of my comfort zone and set up a small media company very, very recently. So this is it. I'm just going to take baby steps from here and shoot for those goals. It's something I've always wanted to do, so I I would never forgive myself if I didn't try.
I get it. But when you step out on your own like this, I mean, woo, there's so many questions, I'm sure, and so many things that are happening. Because the podcast is called Thinking Differently, how are you managing your thoughts and how are you choosing where to go with this new opportunity?
A lot of it, I also follow my gut, and I think when you put your purpose to the universe, whatever higher power you believe in, I believe in God. I think will take you there. And so it's just realizing and seeing the opportunities and going with it. And I think I had I think a very real realization that I was on the right track, because shortly after I had registered the media company, I had received a phone call from a Pacific media colleague, and they asked, you know, do you have a valid passport and what are you doing? So I said, I'm freelancing. So a couple weeks out of registering this company, I ended up in the Cook Islands for a week um, for a media for a media gig, and it kind of just fell into my lap. So I thought I'm on the right track. And I always look at the end goal in sight. If similar to if I'm doing a radio or TV production, I know what the end goal looks like, and then I just work backwards
Wow.
uh, and fill in the gaps as I go.
Okay,
Yeah.
so what does your end goal look like? What are the things that you want to do with your media company?
I want to continue advocating against violence for women and girls in Papua New Guinea. And so that's a huge positive that I've taken away from that experience. I have no regrets about what happened. It happened to serve a bigger purpose. And so even though my 5-year court journey is over and I won my case successfully, and I've had requests from people all around Papua New Guinea asking if I can continue to share information, if I can just, they don't know where to go. And so I've also volunteered my time for on a local youth radio station. So I speak there every Thursdays. And I don't look at it just as GBV awareness, I look at it as empowerment. And so I think by embracing this role and this platform I have, my end goal is I would like a thriving media business doing what I love. Media has never been a job to me. It's something I love waking up and doing. So, and I want to just help educate more Papua New Guineans.
So I know a little bit about your story. I know a little bit about your previous media experience, but can you share, like you said, you got involved at age 15 in media. What was it that you were doing and what did you grow into?
So I was in year 10, and we used to have a program here in Papua New Guinea where you get assigned to different work organizations for work experience for 2 weeks. And I wasn't the most proactive student. I actually had left my application and choice to the last minute. So the guidance counselor at school had called me in and said, Hannah, you have just two choices. There's only two slots available for you. One is at the Crown Plaza Hotel, and the other is at MTV, the local TV station. And I remember asking, what will I do at the hotel? So she said, you're going to be with the chef in the kitchen. So as a Melanesian and, Papua New Guinean young female, I already spend a lot of time in the kitchen. So I said, I'll take the TV station. And so I grew up in media, but with my parents both worked for newspapers. And when I walked into the newsroom and discovered television, I fell in love with it. So I worked through every weekend and school holiday through grades 11, senior high, 11, 12. And then I joined the organization full time.
Wow. Wow. Okay, so then what were your positions that you had while you were working? Because you worked for the TV station for a while, right?
Yes. So I like to tell people my first job was making my boss's cup of coffee, but I made sure I would make him the best coffee that he would always remember me. So whatever task I got given, I did my best and made sure I was brilliant at it. Whether it was so it was just admin work and clerical work initially,
Mhm.
and then I would go along with the journalists and just watch and just learn and just absorb everything around me. And I was told that I would may have to probably go to university before I became a journalist, but I thought, no, I think there's another way to do this. So 3 weeks into the job, I had an incident where I was in the office on my own with my boss, and we had two huge news stories come in from a different province, and he didn't have a reporter on hand to quickly do them. So he said, can I listen to your voice? Can you read this script for me? So I read it, and then he said, oh, have a read of the other one. I just want to. And then he walked out and said, I'm going to use this, and you're going to have these two stories on tonight. So within 3 weeks, he called me in the next morning and said, congratulations. I'd like to promote you to be a trainee reporter because I was wrong about you. Journalism, you either have it or you have to study for it. And clearly you have it. So that's how I got into it.
Wow, that's
That's how
fabulous.
it started. Hmm.
There's so many angles to journalism. My daughter actually has a journalism degree, so I've been educated in this journalist
Mhm.
world. What's your favorite piece of journalism? What's your favorite thing to do?
I think it's my favorite thing is attending a very difficult, or not difficult, but attending a press conference that maybe it's about, a topic of national interest and being able to translate that in my news story for everyday Papua New Guineans to understand.
Ooh,
And regardless of what it's about, one of those first ones was that I wasn't big on reporting on politics, but I learned very quickly that it comes down to the networking and looking at these people as just people when they step out of the office that they hold. They're just people. And so my way of thinking has always been like they're very accessible and they sit in public office and that office belongs to me, the voter, not the minister or not the governor. And so I built a lot of relationships over the last 20 or so years, and it's made it easy to be able to reach out to these people again when I do need to contact them for something. So not to be intimidated. I've always loved not being the smartest person in the room. I like learning from other people. So I would just read the room. And, one piece of advice I got very early is never be afraid to ask the silly question because most often half of the journals are all thinking the same thing.
wow. Well, here in America, United States, we have that same problem where politics is such this arbitrary big words. I love how you just said your job is to simplify it for everybody, probably even the politicians to understand better, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So how many years? Because I know when I was there last year, actually, like literally last year
Last
today, it's
year.
when I got on an airplane to start heading over to your hemisphere. You were part of the tribal foundation. You were an employee or a piece of that. So how many years were you out of media before you took the leap to go back?
I left the last TV station I was with. I left 2 years prior to joining Tribal.
Okay.
So I was a presenter and producer for TV1, which is a private owned TV station here. And but I had always covered tribals work because when it came to different NGOs, and I would be attracted to the messaging and what they stood for, I had already known about them because I'd given them coverage and publicity on their activities and events. So that opportunity also just fell into my lap. I think things get attracted to you, um, and the law of attraction. So I'm appreciative of that experience. I'm appreciative of the team I got to work with and everybody I got to meet in that adventure. I always think everything's an adventure, different adventures.
Right, right. And that goes right back to relationships, like you talked about earlier. Relationships are going to get you where you're going in life. And I agree too. The law of attraction, it's real.
Hmm.
It's
Yeah,
real. So okay. So, and I know you have a powerful story from you personally. You mentioned it earlier, how you're not bitter about it. You won your court case. Do you mind sharing a little bit about your story and why you're so passionate about what you report on?
sure. So in 2018, I was a victim of domestic violence and I decided to fight for justice. In Papua New Guinea, that's not common, especially for somebody that has a very high profile job. And I guess in any working professional woman, there are very few that will ever report it. What's profound to me is on the day that so this person has successfully been convicted of 3 charges. That's 1 count of rape and 2 of grievous bodily harms. I think with the sentencing, it was changed to serious assault. And the day the rape happened, something clicked. And I found my purpose on that day, which was you have a media platform. There's a reason that you've been in this industry. You're now going to use this platform to share your story to help others. And it it was a gut it was a gut decision. I knew it was the right thing to do. I didn't know how long it would take. I went up against every kind of threat, harassment, intimidation. Um, uh, the thing with Papua New Guinea as well is because my perpetrator is from the Highlands province, Highlands region. They're known to be very aggressive and um, have, I don't think it's a cultural thing. I think violent tendencies are very much in individuals' actions and decisions. And so a lot of people hide behind that norm of culture. So we have a lot of influences that have changed the way things are being done here. You have technology, you have social media. And so by knowing that I'm already part of mainstream media, I thought, I have to do this because for three reasons, three very specific reasons. Number one, I did it because I needed to protect myself because I was getting death threats. Number two, I did it because I realized as media, I had access to information and people that everyday citizens didn't have. And so it was my social obligation to access those people and that information and quickly share it to the public because this had never been done before. I knew that we had no, uh, I guess, simple documented case that people could follow and really understand the processes that a lot of people deal with. And thirdly, I wanted to give back to the relevant government agencies my case in its entirety and say, hey, this is where the gaps and the loopholes are. I fix the system for everybody else still fighting for justice. And wasn't easy, but I would quickly flick switches in my brain. So so I just need to backtrack a little bit. Growing up and being in media, anytime I step into a newsroom, whether it's mine or not, I feel like I'm home and I get goosebumps. That happened the first day I stepped into national court and I stepped into the courtroom and I had to call my sister quickly and tell her, you will not believe what happened. And she said, what? And I said, oh, you know how ever since I've been a kid and anywhere I go to a newsroom, I get these goosebumps and that sense of being home. And she said, yeah. I said, I just got it. And I've stepped into national court. It's my first time to be in a courtroom. And so that just gave me that, I guess, acknowledgement that, yeah, I'm doing the right thing.
Wow.
So I would tell myself, what do I need to learn today? And I was really excited with going to court. I'd get all dressed up, put the red lipstick, put the heels. And I thought, this is my courtroom. There's two things I believe as Papua New Guineans that are very empowering, and that's to pay a visit to national parliament to understand that the role of this government is to provide and protect and serve you, and to step into a courthouse because when you understand and you're not intimidated by the word judiciary or that space, you'll be more empowered. So I would get dressed up, go to court, be really excited about what I was going to learn today about the process and the systems, and then quickly use social media to share it and help get that information out to people.
Wow. Wow. So my guess is your communities knew that domestic violence is going on, but the news never reported it. Nobody ever really acknowledged it. And here you are bringing it out into a platform, not even using your news platform, just social media. What was the community connection with you? What did you see happened within your communities that brought you all together, I'm guessing?
I have seen with this 6-year journey that my case has united Papua New Guinea using just the power of information.
Wow.
There's so much regionalism that happens within the provinces here because we're just so diverse. And sometimes people focus too much on that diversity and they look at it as a negative thing. And so this case, I'm told constantly, has single-handedly shaken up the Highlands community. And this information was said to me by a university professor. She said, half of us cannot believe he is in jail. The other half cannot believe you had the balls to do this. And a few supporters that he has, I'm not sure what to do right now. So you've made us, especially the educated ones, take a huge step back. We need to look at ourselves and change our mentality, our mindsets, our behavior. And I get requests for help with cases from all over the country. A big surprise for me was being asked by Papua New Guinean men, Miss Joku, can you help me with my case? And I always say the same thing. I am not a lawyer. I am not a law enforcement agent um, or officer. So how can I help you? Oh, you have. I think one of the interesting ones was being asked by a lawyer, a male lawyer, and I said, he was insistent, and I would just like to meet, have a cup of coffee. So we sat, and I said, how do I help you? And he said, I practice law for a living, but you have maneuvered our court system, and you know more than I do. And so you're in a better position to help me understand what happens next. What do I do? And what can I do that will, or what can I keep following up on? Like, what are the hacks, I guess, in making sure that I get justice as well? So
Oh.
I'm always appreciative and humbled that people come to me for help. And and if it's in Port Moresby, I go out of my way to make sure I give them that time. And meeting them is important because just sitting and talking to many of these women, um, I never hear from them again because then I get a message that says, thank you. You have inspired me. I have now left the violent relationship. I have finally reported him. I'm in court. And so that one-off interaction and just being present to be there for another human being it doesn't matter where they come from, If somebody reaches out for help, it's so important for me that I can quickly give of my time and what's my strength. It's information. So I'm able to sit and tell them, well, these are your options. Um, and not everybody is going to go to court. Each situation and case is different. So you will decide what's best for you because you're actually in it. No police officer or judge or, counselor can understand what you're going through better than you can. So you decide what you want. Sometimes I tell, so I'm, yeah. So I'm invited to a lot of public speaking events, corporate schools, communities, leadership programs. And so the audience is always different. Most recent, I spoke to a room full of doctors, and initially I asked, what could I possibly have to share with, these medical professionals? But they said, oh, we wanted to invite you to inspire because share your example of leadership and integrity. And then I said, okay, so again, making it relatable, I told them, you are frontline responders to GBV. I know there are counselors sitting in this room, so I have a few questions. Have any of you ever gotten counseling for yourselves? No. Knowing me, a Papua New Guinean, I don't know what the systems are currently, but when a victim comes to you and she tells you, I'm a victim of domestic violence, you treat her, what do you do afterwards? They said, nothing. If they come to you and you as a doctor can see the injuries and the extent of the abuse, what do you do? Said nothing. And so it was an eye opener. It allowed them to see things from a different perspective. And now we've connected. They want to sit and, exchange ideas and look at how do we now quickly put together something that's going to help them to connect to the law enforcement. Even though this is something that I feel we should already have, we don't. So that's the reality. So what do we do? And I had several of the gentlemen in the room come later after their session and say, I'm I'm going to be honest and say, listening to you speak, I felt very guilty because I do deal with these women, I do deal with these victims, and I have never done anything except do my job and send them off. And I don't like that. Now that it's been, now that you've made us realize that, And one interesting question I got asked is, what is your most positive interaction you've ever had at a public hospital? And I said, walking in, and the first person that saw me said, "Hi, how do I help you?" You saved me standing in the wrong line for a few hours. You made me feel welcome. You made me feel valuable because you took a few minutes out of your time to just ask if I was okay. And that's something I remember. And all of the doctors just said, you have made us realize we're so detached and we just operate as medical, professionals. We forget that we're human beings and we have tunnel vision and we're just there to do a job. Because sadly, one of the doctors had treated this young woman a week before she was brutally murdered by her husband. And so for him to share that he said, I saw her a week before. It was COVID. I was focused on COVID symptoms. I saw she had a broken arm. I saw she wasn't speaking when I would ask questions. Her aunt was answering. And so I looked at him and I said, and I know that you're holding on to some guilt and you can't do that to yourself. So now how do you take that as a learning experience and what do we do next? That's what I'm here for. Now that we've all met and we've all connected, how do I use my field of expertise and experience to connect to you, and what do we do to make sure that doesn't happen again?
Hmm. You're getting people to think differently. You're empowering people to own. I told my kids growing up, and I still preach it, that nobody cares about you as much as you do. Not even your mom and dad, nobody, because nobody can fill in those gaps that you can't even communicate, right? And that ownership, I guess, that empowerment is so powerful. But what I've learned is sometimes people need permission to think like that.
Yeah.
So thank you for always being so willing to share your story and get your message out there, because it's more than the trial. It's more than all of that. This is changing your world and the entire world. Now, are you doing a lot of traveling outside of Papua New Guinea with your media group, or are you pretty much staying central to where you're located?
So I haven't traveled short of the Cook Islands. I'm just because I'm very new. I'm now falling back and using the networks that I've built to look at opportunities. Um, the funny thing is, because of my, I guess, willingness to speak and share, even though the company is centered around media, a lot of the requests I'm getting are for or requests to do proposals to work with an organization has been, hey, we would love to have you come and do some media training and leadership sessions. And so I'm going to leave it open. I do want to increase and take the public speaking regionally. So the Cook Islands didn't allow me to just connect and be attached to a local broadcaster in the Cook Islands, but I also co-presented with my sponsor from South Pacific community. So we did the gender session at the media training workshop. And I had three very senior female journalists come to me separately to say they are all victims of violence and they had been following the story. So my story got picked up in the South Pacific and I got messages of encouragement and prayers and support from everywhere, Fiji, Tonga, Vanuatu, Solomon Islands. And so our case has set a precedent for the entire for the entire Pacific. And having that interaction now to my regional colleagues, they realize that it's okay to own your story and use what you have around you. I said, we are media. If we don't talk about it, who will? I don't expect you to share, you know, details you don't want to share about yourself. But if you, as a strong Pacific woman, stand there and say, yes, I know what that feels like. I've been there. That's all you need to say that helps the other person connect to you. that connectivity. We are Melanesians and Polynesians and Micronesians, and what is the most effective campaign for any kind of awareness? It's storytelling. It's what our ancestors did. It's what our people understand. They don't understand, elaborate media campaigns. They understand storytelling and person-to-person connectivity. So when you say, I know what you're going through, or I've been there, they're more likely to feel comfortable with sharing and listening to you.
Yeah, and it doesn't stop in your area of the world. I mean, storytelling
Yeah.
is the connector all
Yeah.
over the world, and the
Yeah.
value of sharing the story. And that's where, when I was over in your country last year and just the following I've been doing, of yours, that's what I love the most, because we do. And you mentioned it earlier, that emotional connection and the feeling in your gut. And, I do a lot of emotional intelligence training, and it's hard. Emotions are hard. You need to be intelligent with them, but you can't ignore them. They do mean something, right? So we have to pay attention to it and connect with that. I love it. How can people, I mean, even, here in America or United States, I should say, is where I'm located. So this is where my people are, and that's where I'll be sharing the podcast and such. But how can people stay connected with you? Where are you within the social media or website platform?
So I'm very active on social media. The most, I think, used platform here is Facebook. And so a lot of my entire journey was documented through Facebook. I'm also new to Instagram. So one thing I did when I went through this court journey was I would hashtag everything Wonder Woman Diaries. And that's because I'm a journal and I love to write, and Wonder Woman because I believe every woman in the world has a Wonder Woman inside of her. She just has to realize it. And so when I do sit with a victim and I let her cry, sometimes I cry with her, and then I wait until she's settled, and then I tell her, you look at me as a mirror, and I want you to see courage and strength and bravery, and take what you need from me, take from my story. And it's important to own your story and tell it, so somebody else doesn't feel they have the right to tell it. So I've been stopped in the street multiple times, and people say, hey, Wonder Woman, thank you. I used your information to save my mom. My sister's now saved herself. And to see the perceptions and the attitude change with Papua New Guinean men, especially. I get stopped by police officers. Thank you so much for what you've done. You've helped people understand the process, that it's not an overnight thing. I've had private lawyers, many offered to take my case pro bono. I opted to use the system that majority of women will go through and use. And it was important to keep it that way because I wanted the government to be held accountable every step of the way. So I would tag the police minister to my posts until he unfriended me. I would tag the justice minister. I would harass the attorney general until he stopped taking my calls. Because you do not own those positions, I want you to know that I'm just going to be here to keep diplomatically harassing you to say, hey, do your job, do the right thing, because people's lives depend on it. And it's so important that you see that I'm not doing this out of spite or anything, but I want to use my story to help people. And how do we better work together? How do I, as a citizen, connect to you in your position, and how do we help people?
Right. Right. It's people. I love how you said earlier, we're all people. We all have
Yeah.
similar challenges and fights, and to have somebody that is willing to share, and to have somebody who's willing to lean in. Thank you.
So I'm building an army of empowered women.
Aha. Now, to follow you on Facebook, is it just your name, or do you have like a business page? What have you created?
I'm still setting up my business page, so it's just my name right now. Hennah Joku on Facebook and Wonder Woman Diaries on Instagram. And I'm very old school, so I do realize that, TikTok is another platform that can be used very positively. So I am going to I will teach myself. Learning never stops. So I'm here to just teach myself, and I want it to be fun and interactive, not just such a negative conversation.
Yeah.
So that's what I hear when I'm on the radio station talking to an audience that's predominantly youth is, hey, what do you get to learn today? And how do you empower yourself? How do you equip yourself? So I remember speaking at a local high school, and I had invited two of the female students to come with me to the station. And one of them whispered about a few minutes before we went live, and she said, "Oh, Hannah, I've downloaded the Constitution and I'm reading it, and I would
Wow.
love to go into Parliament one day." And I said, "That's it. That's all I need is for one person in that room to take ownership of their purpose and journey and be okay to go out and then inspire and empower." So everyone I meet or even places I speak at, I connect them back to my colleagues at the radio stations because for Papua New Guinea and the difficulty with geography and infrastructure, if we want any kind of awareness to go out, the most effective using mainstream will be newspaper and radio. So I said, everybody's listening. You never know who you're going to inspire for the few minutes that you get to share. So don't be nervous. Forget the mic that's in front of you and just talk to the guy and talk to the host and talk about you, your journey, and why you're here today.
I love your confidence. I love that you're here on this earth for a reason, and you're using your opportunities, your platforms for not just yourself. And that's hard. That's hard sometimes when things like domestic violence and abuse happen. The why me? Why often is a question, but
Yeah.
I love how you think differently about what you can do with the experiences you have had.
Funny you say that's the most frequently question I get asked in here is, what did you do to provoke it? What did you do? And why are you even talking about it? And so I just say, why not? Why can't I tell my story? I'm the best person to tell my story. You don't get to tell my story. It's mine. The good, the bad, and the ugly, it's all mine. And I'm okay with that. I'm comfortable being me.
Those are audacious questions to ask. Wow, that's
And,
boldness
and
coming from others.
that's what I need to change. I was very disturbed when I had a female um, media colleague who I've known for 20 something years ask me one day, did those things really happen to you? Because she's friends with the perpetrator. And I just said, um, that's okay. That's okay for you to ask. Well, number one, no, yes, it happened because I don't have free time to just rock up to court, willy nilly because there's nothing better to do. I didn't have spare cash lying around every time I needed, transport. And I said, that's okay, you know, um, if that's how you think or how you feel. For me, I've also learned through this process that we will lose people along the way, and that's okay because God's just making space for the other people that we need to connect with. And so I'm, if we outgrow family and friends, I tell women, don't worry about it because that space is meant for somebody else who's going to help you on your journey.
Wow, there are so many golden nuggets in what you have shared and what you've said. I can't wait to air this podcast episode and just talk to people on, what was it? What was it that you said that connected with them? Because thank you. Thank you. I was going to ask. I mean, he's a Papua New Guinean, right? So he has connections and I know the whole male female. Was it hard for I guess you to push forward with your voice because of support that maybe he was getting?
So he was also a public figure because he had contested the last two elections. So he was running for the governor's seat here in Port Moresby for NCD. And um, every kind of intimidation you can think of, they tried every excuse, every adjournment. I had a very nasty um, defamatory article published about me on a blog the day before trial started. And some information in there could only have come from people that I worked with. So I knew that there were a lot of fence sitters that yes, they knew me, but they were like, yeah, but you're female. You know, women don't usually report this. Why would you do it? Or are you trying to destroy his political aspirations? And so I said, listen, women already carry the burden of proof if we want to go to court. Number one, I get it from society. Hey, what'd you do to provoke him?
Wow.
Then you get it from the court system because you have to prove that this person did these things to you. And then I found through the journey that, yeah, I had a female judge. She was given a 11-year head sentence and she was gracious enough to then suspend it. So I'm not okay with that. So I'm challenging that suspension, which has been suspended by 5 years. He's in jail, has been since May. So that was my Mother's Day gift to myself. He got convicted in December when your team was here. So that was my Christmas present. So I will always look at things in a positive way. So where this judge, I felt wasn't fair, I'm okay. That means I get to go back, and part of my purpose, I think, is challenging the systems and processes to
Wow.
show that we either need to change it or, you know, tweak it somewhere because it's not working. So it's made me go back to research and um, connect to people and find out about things like, you know, how do we use my case to now, what I'm pushing for is to get witness protection to be automatic and granted without having to apply to the courts. If I've already gone through this case, why do I need to apply for an IPO and permanent protection orders? Why can't it be granted to me? Why do women have to go and prove again that, yes, I already won, but I've still got to go back and prove that I'm in danger? It's Papua New Guinea. Let's be realistic here and not sugarcoat things. And secondly, is hopefully with this case, I also want to help other people and other organizations that are championing to try and have a separate human rights track set up at the courthouse so that the next person doesn't have to spend 5 years fighting for justice.
So your fight's not over yet.
No,
I mean,
I don't think it will ever be over.
well, yeah.
So the conversation will change, but like even now, because I'm constantly asked for information, I'm in the process of last year I was awarded a Bravery and Courage Award by an organization called the CPL Foundation. It's given to women from 6 different areas. So I've gone back to them to say, hey, how do we work together? And if all goes well, I will launch a podcast of my own
Nice.
to share information and just keep people talking. The conversations have to keep going until they become normalized because what's happened in Papua New Guinea is the violence has happened to the extreme that it's so normalized. It's an everyday thing, and we need to switch that up to make people realize it, regardless of your ethnicity and religion and beliefs. Everyone's governed by a set of laws, and that supersedes everything else because each individual's life is important and is of value, and nobody has a right to take that away.
You're right. You're absolutely right. Well, I know that it's Friday for you. It's Thursday for me. It's about 5 p.m. Thursday, but it's about 9 a.m. Friday morning for you. So real quick, can you just tell us a little bit? I know you and I have talked at like your 1 a.m. hours because your son, your active son was still up. So what's your personal side? You know, what's your family structure? And, you know, I think you live in Port Moresby, right?
Yes.
What else? A little bit about you personally that you're comfortable sharing.
So I am a mother of 5. I've been a single parent for 16 years. That's by choice. That is also something that's uh, frowned upon, I guess you could say. I'm okay with that. I grew up in 2 very diverse families. Both parents come from families. Uh, they're both from families of 10 siblings each. And so I have a huge, huge family. What I think makes my story a little different. My father was a refugee. He's originally from West Papua in Indonesia, so he came to Papua New Guinea at the age of 12. He did not speak English, and he went on to master it and become one of Papua New Guinea's top investigative journalists. So, and my mother comes from Central Province, and my grandfather is from Goilala, which is a very minority group here in the Central Province, always known to be troublemakers and instigators of violence, I guess, to an extent. So when I meet people from my province here and I share that I'm from there, they're very surprised. And I said, I'm the stigma that comes with it when you tell people, when you say where you're from, they automatically connect you to something negative, whereas I get to change that perception. I am a strong Motuan woman. So my mother, you would say, is Motuan. I speak fluent English, Pidgin, and Indonesian. I cannot speak my parents' local languages, dialects, is so complicated, but I understand it fluently. So I live in Port Moresby, but all of my siblings live across the border at home in West Papua. So they've all moved and become Indonesian citizens, and I'm the only one that's here in Papua New Guinea out of my immediate family. But yeah, I think every day we're afforded all different opportunities, and we all have the same 24 hours. So what are we going to do with it? So
That's right.
your interview, actually, thank you. It's very timely because I just found out last night that the Justice Department is having an open day. And so they are going to have all the different agencies who did play a role in my case be there. So I'm going to go along and meet different people and extend that network. But and then that's a whole nother bucket of information that I'll come back and disseminate and just share to people and share. So I think what has happened with the cases, people have gotten comfortable. We've had some very high profile people come to me as well. I get asked for help from policemen, policemen's wives, policewomen, politicians' partners, everyday women, young women. And as a mother of a 23-year-old, it's so important to me that we set the example now. But when I'm not doing media, when I'm not doing advocating, I love to read. And not many people know, but I love horror. I'm a huge Stephen King fan. I fell in love with him in high school. So I think our brains probably are similar in that they function a little different.
So what book or books are you reading right now?
I have they're all on my shelf. I actually cannot remember right now to tell you what I am reading. But this morning I was reading my Bible. I'm trying to get back to fitting in and prioritizing that meditation space before everything else happens and everyone else wakes up. It's just reallocating that me time to me. And I always tell women, find what works for you, because self-care is important. Where if you're juggling a career and home life with Papua New Guineans, you're also juggling your extended family, your in-laws, your cultural obligations. And so my detached time and my me time is going to the gym. So I love going to the gym, and then I post about that too, because I like to encourage other older women to take care of themselves, because you have to have just a nice clear headspace to be able to deal with everything that you deal with.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Hennah, thank you for having your voice, for being confident with your voice, for sharing. And thank you for sharing here, today on this podcast. You're not just preaching and teaching to your people. You are crossing the borders, you're crossing the oceans, because everything you said, I relate to as well. We're people, we're women, the Wonder Woman and the empowerment. Yeah, keep doing what you're doing, because we need to hear you. We need to hear from you. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity. It's been a pleasure.